que andes por las ramas, uy, 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 camina trenecito que a Totonilco voy, ya parece que en la estación da brinquitos mi corazón, en este Totonilco de naranjos en flor parece...
My name is Stella, Stella, Sanchez Guerrero. Many years later, I found out that it was not Stella, it was Estella. So I go by either name. So I like Stella better than Estella. So I was born December the 10th, 1931, East 7th and East Avenue. East Avenue is the frontage road now of I-35. My dad's name is Raymond Garza Sanchez. My mother's name is Margaret Mendez Sanchez. My mom and dad were from Kyle. Well, no, my mother was from Kyle and my father was from Mission, Texas. My husband's mother was from Fredericksburg, and so was his father.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, there was 8 of us. There was Raymond, Walter, Corrine, Stella, Margaret, Armando, Herbie, Jerry. I was the 4th one down, so I was in the middle. There's only 3 of us left.
And who were your grandparents?
My mother's mother was Carolina Barrera, and she married Gavino Mendez. My dad's parents was Susie, Jesusita, and Esteban Sanchez. My grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, when we moved to East 8th Street, they rented a house across the street from us. And my grandmother didn't get out much. She was a beautiful woman. Her dad was a judge in San Antonio. And her husband, my grandfather, Gavino, found a job at Camp Mabry, hiring men to do landscaping. And he, truth be told, he met a lady over there that used to come pick him up, take him to work, and bring him back. And of course, to the gossip of the neighborhood, that was his lady friend. So that's how close my grandparents lived to me, one side. The other side, on my daddy's side, was on between 6th and 7th on Sabine, west of I-35. That's where they lived. But my grandmother was always sick, so I never saw her walk. She was in bed all the time.
Was she able to talk with you?
Oh yes, we'd go visit her, and
Would you
we'd
talk
talk.
about things going on in your life, or?
No, she was just talk about herself, and her illness and her family and everything like that. My dad was born in Mission, Texas, and when he was born, my grandmother was very sick, the one that I told you about. So she sent him to Mexico to her sisters to raise him. When he was 15, the Revolution War was starting in Mexico. So they sent him back to Mission.
And he was able to avoid the war?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He got from, because they were recruiting even 15-year-olds.
Where in Mexico?
Torreon.
Torreon?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever visited Torreon?
No. I went to Mexico only to Nuevo Laredo when I was married already. We didn't do much traveling when we were young. It was, if you had money, you buy food.
True. And who were your aunts, uncles, and cousins?
Oh my God.
Was it a big family?
Very big family, very.
We could start with, who are the aunts and uncles that have impacted your life the most?
Well, on my dad's side, he had brothers of Big John and Little John. Why, I don't know, but yeah, that's the way they were. And then Federico, Celso, Fernandez. And sisters was Mary, Gloria, and Susie. They were all Sanchez. None of them are living.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And how far back can your family's genealogy go?
I have not tried because it's very consuming, and I was very busy, and I never did make the effort of trying.
And do you have any children or grandchildren?
I had 11 babies. 3 are not living. And grandchildren, I have 37. And great-grandchildren, I have 24.
And where'd you go to school? Did you go to school in Austin, or?
Yes, I went to Palm Elementary School. I went to Allen Junior High School and Stephen Austin High School.
And would you like to share something about your childhood?
My childhood was there were no rules because we were very attentive of whatever our parents said. There was no money, so we were very, very poor. But my dad always had a job because he worked for a men's clothing store. And you know, at that time, only the rich could afford new suits. So he was always busy. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom. We played in the park in front of our yard, which is now the frontage road of I-35. Every block had a park in front of it. And it was landscape beautiful, and people would just stop and pass by, take a rest, and that was our playground. Played fiddlesticks, jacks, and the boys had a BB gun that they would put their 3 sisters behind sheets hanging and shoot, see if the BBs would go through. It never did. That was our games. We had a little red flyer wagon, and my oldest brother and I would always go to the Buttercrust Bread Company way out of West Austin and buy 2 bags of day-old bread and bring it back home. And that was a trip for me, really, because my brother would bring me down East and West 5th Street and Congress Avenue, and we'd have a good day just rolling our wagon. That was a big trip for us. My dad used to take us to the movies at the Ritz Theater every Monday night. Why Monday nights, I still to this day don't know. But it was fun going to the Ritz. Where you get your tickets, it had one side for the whites, the other side for the black. The blacks got the best seat because their seats were up in the balcony. We got to sit in the downstairs. So it was a lot of fun. He would take all of us, all 8 of us, to the movies, and my mother. We looked forward to Monday nights. I don't care what was on.
Just going there with your family?
Yeah, just go as a big family, The popcorn machine was in the street in front of the bar next to the theater. If you wanted popcorn, you had to buy it there and take it inside.
And how much was popcorn?
A nickel.
Wow.
Yeah, he'd give us a nickel for every 2 of us.
Oh, so you
So
guys would share?
Yeah, we'd share. We ate it very slow. It lasted a long time.
Oh.
Until we moved to East 8th Street, where my dad bought a home there. I got married when I was still living there.
And do you have any memories that you could recall that you feel are important in your adolescence?
Oh, there was a lot of incidents. One of the most memorable to me is when the Ku Klux Klan was marching down East 7th Street going west. And my dad got real scared, and he says, "Turn the lights off and don't look out the window because the Ku Klux Klan is marching." We didn't know much about it at that time. He did, but we didn't know. Of course, everybody took a peek out the window because we wanted to see what was it all about. It just left an impression on me because all these men were businessmen, and there was only one Hispanic marching in there, and he was a businessman. But we didn't know why they were marching. And Dad never shared the experiences with us.
And when you think about that now, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that I wish I had known what it was all about, although I didn't know, although our neighbors were black. There were two wonderful ladies, that it was okay, you know. We didn't feel any prejudice, and they didn't feel any prejudice. But now I think about it, and I wished I'd have known a little bit about it. I'd been more conscious of what was going on. I must have been, let's see, about 8 or 10 years old. Mm-hmm.
In your adulthood, is there anything that you feel is really significant that you can recall?
The one thing that was very significant is that although we didn't have much of anything, but we also had what they used to call in those days gypsies that would park in the park in front of our house, and the whole family was traveling, you know, just like our nomads parade, and they'd sleep there in the park. In the morning, one of the kids would come to our house for something to eat. We were looking for something to eat ourselves, but my mother was very generous. She'd always fix them, whatever she had, and send it back so they could have something to eat.
That's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My dad used to love to play dominoes. He would work half-day Saturday only, because in the afternoon they wouldn't make much sales in clothing. He never went to school, but he could read and write in Spanish and English. He would read to us every night a novel in Spanish. We were just waiting for my dad to come home from work and eat, and we'd sit down and he'd read a book to us.
It's very nice that he committed all that time to you guys.
Oh yes, my dad was home every night.
That's very sweet.
He wasn't 2 nights in his lifetime and in my lifetime. He was away from home, and that's when one of the sisters that raised him in Mexico died, and then the other one died. He went to the funeral and came back just one night. My dad was home every night, and every time he won on dominoes, he'd gather all of us and take us to a place called Carlene's. It was a house converted into a restaurant. It was about 2 blocks away from Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, and we'd all go for dinner. They'd buy a plate called La Combinación, which means the combination of enchilada, taco, tamale. It was a big tray like that for 35 cents. And for all the children, we'd get a taco.
Oh, so you guys would share one combinación or 2?
No, they had 2, one for each other, but the kids we ate that taco real slow, so it would last a long time.
So it was about savoring.
Yeah, and that was a treat on Sunday afternoon. That's when we had it.
And was your family a part of any groups, any churches?
Well, we all belonged to Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, which was on 9th and Lydia.
And what kind of church is that?
Catholic. Actually, the neighborhood that I lived was East 8th Street. And that neighborhood was very, utterly religious. There was 2 priests that came out of the neighborhood, 1 brother and 3 sisters. And we were called the publics because we went to public school. And everybody else went to Catholic school. So we were not too acceptable because we were publics. I don't know what they thought, that publics were bad. are good. I never asked him because I didn't care.
What kind of business did your family work in?
My dad was always a master tailor. He worked in this high-end men's clothing, and he was very sought after men's stores to be their tailor, but he stayed with Gaston's. They were located on Congress Avenue. And then across the street was Reynolds and Penlin on Congress Avenue. They were always fighting for him.
So he was kind of in need.
Yes, there was a need for that. And he was a very good tailor.
What was the fashion like when you were growing up?
Most men wore three-piece suit and a straw hat. Well, in summer was a straw hat, and in winter was a fedora. I think that's what you call these hats, sort of like suede-like material. Most men that had money wore that. My dad wore it because he was giving it to him by the customers. They would give him the suits that they didn't want, and he would convert the suits into a woman three-piece suit. So I wore three-piece suits to school.
Oh, that's actually very cool.
Oh yes, I was up in fashion. You know how they can get and perform, get in front of a microphone, perform with $50 jeans all torn up. I could have been in fashion way back there before. It's hard to see how the ladies dress sometimes, you know. The men, not so much, because they still wear their trousers and their t-shirts, but the women have drastically changed according to the way we used to dress. I never wore pants because it wasn't acceptable for girls to wear pants in those days. We'd wear a dress and freeze going to school because it was cold. And I walked to school. My dad never had a car. Well, I take that back. My dad had a car. And he'd come home and he would park it there on front of the house, and one of my mother's brothers would come and borrow it because they always had some place to go. And my dad never said no, but after the third time, because they would borrow it and it would run out of gas, and they would leave the car where it ran out of gas. Yeah. And then he'd come and says, the car wouldn't start anymore. And my dad said, did you put gas in it? He says, no. Well, that's the reason he wouldn't start. So they would turn the keys over to him. So he decided to sell the car before. He didn't keep it for over a year. It was parked in front of the house or parked at the business where he worked. Everybody else enjoyed the car. So we walked everywhere. I walked to school. All three schools that I went to, I walked to.
And were they long walks, typically?
The high school was long, but we were used to walking. It was no big deal. Summer and winter, when you graduated from high school, you had to walk to your exercises, you know, and the graduation was always held at UT campus in front of the Union Hall. And you get on the bus with your cap and gown and go over there and then come back.
And when did Metro buses start making their appearance?
Way long after.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Do you wish you had a Metro bus at that point?
Well, I wouldn't know what. I have never been on a Metro bus since it came on. And by that time, I was married, so.
And do you have any memories of family reunions, family gatherings?
We never had a family reunion, but there was always a gathering on holidays, you know, at the house or an uncle or an aunt. But as far as reunions, we never did have any.
What was Austin like? And is there something you want to share about Austin?
It was very small. It has grown just out of reach, really. I mean, I don't even remember some of the places because it has changed a lot. Everybody wants to come to Austin because of the change. But it was just a little town like maybe Kyle is right now, you know. But everybody seems to want to come to Austin for some reason. I left Austin to come to Buda. And I cried all the way because I didn't want to move to Buda. I was very comfortable in Austin. Now I cry if they get me out of here. It's so nice and quiet and peaceful and not that far from Austin.
Does it make you miss the old Austin?
In a way, yes, in a way.
Do you know anything about Oakwood Cemetery?
We buried our little brother there, and he died of pneumonia when he was 9 months old.
And when was this?
It had to be, let's see, I was in 31, it had to be in 1933. And he had a lot of fever, was very sick. At that time, my mother had an aunt that was a midwife. So she called the midwife to come and help her get his fever down. They got one of these big galvanized tubs and got a block of ice and got an ice pick and broke the ice into water and dunked him so he could bring the fever down. He not only brought the fever down, but it killed him too. He was 9 months old.
Know your brother's name?
Armando Sanchez. And we buried him at Oakwood. That was the only cemetery available to us at that time. I don't think Mount Calvary was even open at that time.
And when you say it was the only one available, do you mean that it was accessible for you, or?
Yes, that's the only one that I know that the people had a cemetery. And it was a big one too. After he passed away, my mother had a little girl, and then after she grew up, she had a boy, and she named him Armando.
Oh,
so
that's very sweet.
Yeah, in honor of him, who he's still living. He lives in Albuquerque right now.
Did you ever return to Oakwood Cemetery after that?
Yes, I did. My mom used to take us every 2 weeks with a lunch and the kids, and we'd have a picnic at his gravesite. We buried him right off of the road, which was easy to find, and there was a little cedar tree by him, a real thin cedar tree. Well, when I grew older, I wanted to see if I could find it. I found the gravesite, but next to it was a huge, giant cedar tree, and you could push the limbs back and see his grave there. My second baby was born and died in 9 days, and we buried him in Mount Calvary Cemetery. We used that one because it was a Catholic cemetery. They were running out of space in Oakwood, and Assumption was just about being built, you know, or not being open.
Okay.
So we buried our second son there. At one time, my grandmother lived across the street from the Texas State Cemetery, and we'd go visit them. And my aunt that lived there always wanted to give some ghost stories. She'd take us out to the porch, and we'd be looking at the cemetery, and the ghost that would appear from there. And she'd have this big concussion of those ghost stories. We were all so scared we didn't know what to do.
So after high school, what was life like in Austin?
It was hard finding a job, but I did. I've had many jobs in my life, especially when I was young. I worked at a bakery store when I was 10 years old. I used to make the bread. It was called Sunshine Bakery on East 7th Street.
Do you know if it's still around?
No, it's been gone for a long time. There used to be a pecan store that ran pecans through a conveyor belt, and you take out all the shells, throw them away, and another part of the conveyor belt, you take out all the saving pieces of the pecans. And then I had a job as a DJ.
Really?
For 2 years. I was still in high school. It was the Avalon Dinner Club. They had a little room with LPs stacked on 3 walls. I had two turntables with a microphone. I used to play all kind of music.
Wow.
And dedications for anybody that wanted to hear dedications.
And what are some types of music that you were into?
Well, it's not what I liked, it's what the people would like, but we had the big band sound. Glenn Miller, Harry James, Tommy Dorsey, and Xavier Cugat. We'd have all those records, Frank Sinatra. I always liked music. I always had music. And that's what I did. That was one of my fun jobs. I used to get out of one job at the Army-Navy store and go to 6th and Congress and get the bus to go to that job at the Avalon. One bus would go all the way to the Avalon. That was the end of the road. And I'd get out and go to work. And one of my bosses would bring me home because there was no more transportation. But I knew how to get there, and they would bring me home. That was a good job, fun job. Met a lot of boys. Well, I was working part-time at, there used to be a store named Army and Navy store. It was open literally for the servicemen that needed uniform, caps, medals, and, stripes and everything. And my brother worked there. It was owned by John Hurwitz. And I asked him if he needed any help. He said, well, you can come and work on Friday, Saturday. So that was one of my first jobs after I got out of high school. And then I got a job at Good Friends. It was a ladies' store that was on 9th and Congress. I was doing inventory control, marking all the clothes that went in and all the clothes that sold it. And one time there was the owner there, and he said, turn your card in. You're not coming to work tomorrow. And I said, why? And he just left. Never told me. But he had my check ready. So I walked from there across the street, and there was a 5 and 10 cent store called S.H. Cress. I got a job there the same day. I worked a week, and I got a call from a friend that there was an opening at Economy Furniture, which was a furniture plant that made furniture. And I got a job there as inventory control also. And that was the last place that I worked for a salary. They made furniture and sent it out to all the furniture stores in the United States. I worked there for 5 years. Until I got married. I got married and went back to work. I had a baby, went back to work. And after my second one, I told him I was quitting. He says, don't quit, work half day only. I said, okay, that'll work. But it didn't. I figured half day. I'd go home at noon, pick up my baby, have lunch, take a nap. And I wouldn't get up till about 4 o'clock. I says, this is not going to work out, so I just quit. But they were very, very good employers. The employee says, Stella, I like the report that you made. And whenever you get married, you can write an order for anything you want. He didn't know I was getting married soon. So I made a report for the living room, bedroom. Wow. And the day I got married, a semi truck came and delivered all the furniture that I had ordered for my wedding. They made some good wood furniture, and I still have some pieces. When I started working there, it was 75 cents an hour. And the week after, the government changed the minimum wage to $1.25 an hour, which I thought was, 50 cents more? an hour. And when I quit, that's what I was getting, $1.25 an hour. But I got furniture. And that was a plus right there. It was a plant owned by a husband and wife that they were Jewish, and while I was working there, they sent order to Israel to bring in 2 of the persons that were in the Auschwitz camp, and they still had their numbers tattooed. They were going to be put in the gas chamber during that number, when their number came up. So he saved them from going to the gas chamber.
And did you know a lot about what was going on there in that time?
Yes, the war. We didn't vote because they were charging to vote. If you voted, it cost you $2. So that was $2 out of your...
Yeah, that's like 2 hours of your work.
Yeah. So someone in Austin made a dance, and they charged $2. And that $2 would go towards the poll tax. And that's the last time that they charged for taxes, because everybody went to a dance. They figured if that's the way they're going to get votes, everybody would go and have a good time. So after that, they never charged for voting. I voted every year that I was able to vote. To this day, I do mail absentee voting, mail in.
And what about later on in your adulthood? How was East Austin changing then?
It was people were getting aware of what's happening in East Austin and discrimination, and they were writing there. They were getting involved, but we never did get involved because my mom and dad always sent us to school. We never missed a day of school, and so that's why we didn't get involved. It took time to get up and go to school and then walk back and do our chores and everything. There was a lot of instances where East Austin was trying to get ahead, trying to have candidates that you could vote for, where before there was none at all.
You say you got married. What was the name of your husband?
Clarence Guerrero. He had been in the Navy 2 years, and when he got out of the Navy, he went to drafting school. They offer all kinds of schools to veterans in those days, and he took drafting. He did it for a year, and he just started working as a carpenter because his dad was a carpenter. When I met him, he brought me home for a whole year before he even asked me out. He would say, "I'm taking you home." If I was at some gathering and I was there, he was there, he'd say, "I'm taking you home." I said, "Okay." We always had to get a ride because we didn't have a car. Anywhere we went, it was a ride from a friend or somebody. One time that he brought me home, he showed me the plans of the house he was building when we get married. So that was my engagement ring.
Oh.
Plans for a home.
Wow.
And he started building it. He showed the plans to my mom and dad and told them the same thing. Stella and I are getting married, and this is what I'm going to build. So this is finished, we're going to get married.
Wow.
And the day after it was finished, we got married for 68 years. It was on 66 Navasota.
It's right by Oakwood.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 66 Navasota. It was just a one-bedroom house. We had 5 kids there. He says, "Well, I better build another house with an extra bedroom." I says, "I think you better," because we're running out of room. And we had 11 kids in 12 years. And I never said I wanted kids. I just got married, but I never said I wanted a family or a big family. It was just the way it was. When our 4th child was born, he started his own business. And well, one thing I have to say is when we built the house and we married and we moved in, we didn't have water, we didn't have electricity. So my mother lived next door. My mother-in-law lived next door. She put an extension cord from her house to our house and put a little heater because it was freezing. We married in January the 15th, and it was sleeted ice on the ground. We had heat for the weekend. On a Monday, he went to Calcasieu. It was a big store like Home Depot, but bigger. He did a few jobs for them, and he went to the manager and said, we just got married, we built a house, but we don't have a gas range or a refrigerator. I'd like to get one from you, but I don't have a down payment. And he looked at us, he says, would you like a washing machine too? And Clarence looked at me and I said, yes.
Because
So-
at this point you had been hand washing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he, the next day there was those 3 appliances delivered to our home
For free?
without a down payment. Yeah. He said you can make a payment of $5 every 2 weeks if you can.
Wow.
His name was Carl Bach. He was a very gentleman, good-hearted gentleman.
Oh.
And from then on, we got multiple jobs from Calcasieu. And that's how we started our business. He started going and he got jobs. He always had a job. And I would be his backup bookkeeper, secretary, insurance agent, tax agent, everything. It was just him and I.
So you know a lot about the things that happen in the background of the business. Thanks to
I know very much about it, yeah.
Wow.
Very much, yeah.
And how was it like taking care of a lot of kids? Did it get easier or harder?
It wasn't hard. It was something you had to do. You did it every day. You enrolled them in school, took them out on play dates. We built a house on Corral Lane. You know where Golden Corral is? Golden Corral was not there, but we bought 2.5 acres there. And we built that house. That house is right now a big business that we started.
Wow.
What's the name of the business?
CG&S Design-Build. We ran that business until, he stayed there till we moved here in '87.
Mm-hmm.
We had apartments built on the side and that was our office. But when we built here, they made the offices the main house. To this day, it's still an office. It's still going on strong. Very, very big. During the time that we moved there, we also signed up for foster children. We had, at one time, within 2 years, we housed 27 foster children. Not all at one time, but in intervals. We were sort of like a halfway house for the children. They came to us to get them straightened up, cleaned up, and then from there they would go to a settlement home.
And how was that like? Did you enjoy
hard.
it?
That was hard. Yeah, but it was good, you know. We always had 2 sisters or a brother and a sister, and they were part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
At one time we had 12 kids in the house, feeding 12 kids.
Wow. And what kind of food would you prepare for 12 kids?
Well, there were some mashed potatoes and beans and rice and enchiladas, meatloaf. I prepared 3 meals a day and still kept my business in a little office that my husband had put aside for me. Sometimes I'd work to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning,
Wow.
getting payroll going and everything, you know, and then go to bed and wake up at 6 and get them ready for school.
It's a very demanding.
Very demanding, yes. Very. The only thing is that on their birthdays, I always say, what's your favorite meal? They could plan their meal for their birthdays. They would plan chicken and dumplings. They would plan catfish. They would plan chopsteaks. They would plan, they'd always get together. They said, what do you want to eat? I'm going to ask for this. No, I don't like that. Ask for this. They'd always plan. But only the birthday person had a say as to what we were going to eat that night. And I had a birthday cake and a party. And every once in a while, someone would invite their best friend from school to join us. So it was big. We had bought some land on Rolling Oak. On Sundays, we'd go to picnics to Rolling Oaks. It's off of Kyle. Every Sunday, we'd make a big meal and take it to Rolling Oaks and spend the whole day after church.
And how do you feel about the way money has changed from when you were a kid to now?
A drastic change, but we worked for it. It's not that it was falling from the sky, anything like that. We worked hard for everything and had a plan, had a savings plan. We had enough to pay all our bills, enough to make prom dresses. I used to make the prom dresses. I even made a wedding gown one time.
Really?
For the oldest daughter, yeah.
Wow. Would you celebrate any Hispanic celebration days, like Cinco de Mayo?
Cinco de Mayo and 16th of September, there was always a dance, and we'd go to the dance. That's how we would celebrate. The Day of the Dead, we'd just go to church. My daughter that lives down the street, she has a table of the Day of the Dead, and they call it the table of ofrendas. And her little grandchildren, they love that, and they always call me to go see the table that they had. She has something for that every year. But I never did. I didn't have much time to do any extra activity.
Mm-hmm. And does the same go for year-round, like Christmas?
Oh, we had a big Christmas, yeah. We'd make tamales and have it for dinner, and after dinner we'd go to the living room and everybody performed some skit. And people would come over, they'd say, are you having Christmas night live? I said, yeah. Can we come? Sure. But there were some skits and we all have it on tape. They were so funny, you wonder where they get it from. So that was our Christmas. And now, as the kids are grown up and have their own family, we have a Christmas breakfast together, all of us. We change houses. We make tamales a month earlier, and we serve for breakfast tamales and eggs and all kinds of goodies, and everybody will go to that house on that one day. It's still going on for so many years. I guess the grandchildren are going to continue that because they love it.
You have like a hobby you do.
What's my hobby? Well, I'll tell you what my hobby is. I have been playing poker for 50 years. I play with a group of women. We're down to 6 people now, but we still get together on a day like Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. We go to somebody's house and we play cards till noon. We have lunch and then we'll play cards till 2:15. It is poker, but not really, because we don't play the same 5-stud, 7-stud draw. We make up games.
Oh.
And have a really good time making up the games.
Okay. So it's more about having fun.
It's more like having fun and getting together, yeah. We would have a get-together on Christmas Day or Christmas holiday, and we'd go take a trip to San Antonio, or we just have a Christmas party at one of our houses, and we really enjoy ourselves.
And have you ever felt prejudiced for your Hispanic culture?
Mm-hmm. Many times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Many, many times. But it didn't bother me. I figured it was their bad luck to feel that way, you know. At one time there was a dance at Barton Springs. And you know how when you go to Barton Springs, there's a driveway that you drive into. And they would close that driveway with tapes. And it was a Labor Day dance. And everybody would go and dance, everybody. And then they figured out that there was Anglos and Hispanics dancing, mixed. So they decided to put a ribbon from one end to the other, and all the Anglos would be there, and all the Hispanics would be there. They would get you in point, go there. And then when it came to me, I was dancing with an Anglo. They didn't know what to do. So we kept on dancing, and they went and tore the ribbon off. So we got that one taken care of.
So you would always feel the need to kind of go against the grain when
I
things...
always did.
Okay.
To bring attention to it. Yes, I was that kind of a person.
If you could send a message to someone 100 years from now, either a descendant or not, what would you say?
I'm very big on peace. Peace mostly in the family. There's so much dissension sometimes in a family. You know, the family itself, I always say, keep peace in mind. And I know that you do bad, but you can forgive somebody for doing bad to you, but on yourself, you do some good for them, you know? And I always get after my kids, if they have a little argument, hey, let's get some peace going on. And don't you dare tell me that you can't come because they're here or because they were here or there. That's my biggest stronghold, is to be peaceful. Do for one another. Keep peace. It's a much better life to keep peace and to do for one another. Don't do it because they have done something for you. Do it because you want to do it, you know.
And what is something that you hope for in the future?
I'm 92 years old. I just hope to be healthy. And if I die in a short, sick period, you know. If I die, of course I'm going to die. But I don't want to be sick in bed, you know, waiting. I want it to go fast.
Thank you so very, very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.